Hello students, welcome to the answer writing program. Today we'll see two case studies from GS4 ethics paper. We'll see how to write the case study, how to approach the case study, and what are the different dimensions or the parts of the case study. So let's start with the first question. And in the paper itself, before reading the case study in the question paper, just see what are the questions that case study asks you from. Like in this particular question, we need to write down the ethical dilemmas, the options available to you under that particular situation, and the third is the course of action that you will choose, and you have to give some reasons why, so that it will create some blueprint that what you need to take from the case study. And while reading the case study, because students feel issue or faces the problem that once they read the case study, again they do not remember what are the major points. So while reading the case study only, jot down some major points like we'll learn in this particular video. You are the district collector of the Himalayan district. District collector of the Himalayan district, which is famous for the religious tourism. Religious tourism. The economy of the region is mostly dependent on tourism with no other economic prospect. No other means religious tourism is the only economic prospect in that particular region. The people of the district are either engaged in the tourism, means the people are engaged in the tourism, or go to the metropolitan cities to work as a migrant labor. Otherwise, they cannot work there and they will migrate to the metropolitan city. The district too has been awarded by the state and the central government for properly managing tourism sector. And everybody is also saying, like central government and the state government, that this district could be improved and developed on the religious tourism basis only. Apart from being a tourist spot, the district also comes under zone 5 as per the seismic zone. Now comes the vulnerabilities. Here comes the ethical dilemmas also. So this is the developmental prospects and the stakeholders like the district collector, like the people. Till now we have read this much. Now talking about the vulnerabilities. It is seismic zone 5. The district has a good population of youth, youth. But due to lack of employment, they usually migrate to the metropolitan cities. Thus, the high proportion of the youth demands induction of the skills. Now, what alternates they have? Skill development and widening of the economic activities in the region. Either develop the tourism or skill plus economic prosperity. Other than this, infrastructural development of the hotels, investment in the skills and other economic activities is required. Owing to the growing people's demand, the state government has decided to construct multiple hotels in the region. These hotels, apart from helping in augmenting the revenue for the government, would also aid in providing local people employment. So it is a win-win situation for both the government as well as the people. People will get the employment and state will generate the revenue, and also as the whole, as a society, this region will be developed as a religious tourism center. The project has been widely promoted and Chief Minister is himself taking the good amount of interest in it. Now Chief Minister, because of the political agenda as well as the socio-economic development of that particular region, CM himself is taking so much interest in it. Now here comes the onus on you. You, being the district collector, has been asked to speed up the formalities. Now comes CM is asking to fasten up the formalities so that the construction could be started. On conducting the feasibility study, the DDMA, Disaster Development Management Authority, informs you that the project is unfeasible as the local topography would get strained. Now comes the DDMA and the vulnerability is topographical strains. Now, you, by virtue of being DC, is also the chairman of DDMA. Thus, you have put on hold the project, but you are constantly pressurized by CMO, because as a district collector, you are also the official chairman of the DDMA, and you have stalled this project because of unfeasibility of this project. But now the CM is pressurizing you to clear this all the clearances. The socio-economic advantage of the project coupled with the political importance is making CMO pressurizes you. This thing already we have discussed. Because of the multiple phases, CM is also pressurizing due to the socio-economic development of that particular region and also the political advancements or the political importance. They cannot bypass you because you are also the chairman and as the district collector, and thus require your cooperation. Not agreeing to the demand of the CMO would face the professional difficulties. Now, this is the case study. In this case study, let's do some brief what we have read in the case study. There is a district collector. He is asked to clear all the clearances respect to the environmental or the National Disaster Management Authority as a chairman of him of that particular body. He has asked to clear all the formalities so as to speeden up the project. First thing. Second thing, that area is a religious spot and also it lies in the seismic zone 5. Third thing, people are also demanding for the employment opportunities, otherwise they will also migrate. And now it comes the dilemma of environmental sustainability versus the economic development in front of that particular civil servant or the district collector. Now, the major first question is state all the ethical dimensions faced by you. But now you have to see some flow how to write the case study. Just as an introduction, you write some basic or the fundamental theme, what the question is major demand of. Like write that the particular demand or the fundamental demand or the theme, or you can also write some facets of the case study, that what are the major issues in the introduction itself. Like introduce or describe the case study in 3 to 4 lines. Then start with the stakeholder, that what are the different stakeholders in this particular question or in this particular case study. Then comes the ethical dilemmas or the ethical issues, whatever the questions demands. Then comes the options, what are the multiple options available in front of you, and the next point is what option you will choose and why. Now you have to give reason why you will choosing this and how you will proceed with this particular step. You have to quote some reasons that how you will proceed. Then finally conclude it. Again, this conclusion and the introduction is necessary. You will fetch more marks. And because this is a 250 mark question and the question is of 20 marks, so you have to take care about the word limit also, and you have to complete it in the prescribed time and the prescribed word limit. The basic and the very major issue with the GS4 paper is the time crunch. So you have to manage all these things via first reading, via jotting down the various aspects of the case study and to complete the answer in the prescribed time limit. So introduction. What you can write in introduction? Just the basic description that the balancing economic development and environmental sustainability is a very humongous or a very crucial or task for the civil servant. Economic development is essential for the economic prosperity of that particular region, for the people over there, but it comes with at the cost of environment, and ignoring the environmental consequences of economic development will lead to the long-term negative impacts on the people, on the topography, on the region as a whole. So you can write this description into the introduction. Then comes the stakeholders. As we have discussed that district collector is a stakeholder because he is given a task to clear all these prospects. Then people, major youth who are demanding the skill development or the economic opportunities. Then the CM, because he is very close to this project, he is asking you regularly to fasten up the process. Then DDMA, because he has denied to give the permissions. Then comes the society at the large. So these are the stakeholders. Then ethical dilemmas present. The very first is, as we have discussed in the introduction also, that this is a dilemma between the economic development and the environmental protection. Economic development will give the opportunities for that particular region to develop, whole revenue will be generated, but then comes at the cost of the environmental protection because it is in the seismic zone 5. Even though the development comes this particular time, it will not be the sustainable development because some time in the future it will stuck down. Then comes the economic prosperity versus sustainability. Economic prosperity for the people, because otherwise they'll go as a migrant, otherwise they will be working in their region if the developmental or the economic activities boost up in this particular region, versus the economic or the environmental sustainability. Next is professional ethics. As a civil servant or as the district collector, my professional ethics is to take the right course of action. And the right course of action is to halt the developmental process there of development of the different hotels, versus organizational hierarchy. Organizational hierarchy means I am the part of the organization ethics I have to follow. Like if CM has asked me to speeden up or fasten up the process, now I come in the dilemma of maintaining my professional ethics or to obey the commands of the CM. Then comes the professional integrity and the personal gains. So this is again the dilemma. Then comes the options available to me. First is, I'll state the objections given by the DDMA and halt the project and will convey it to the CM. Now I need to write the merits and demerits of each particular option. Now how we decide the options? Take the extreme ends first. Like issue is either halt the developmental project and fully go for the environmental sustainability, or halt the project and go for the environmental sustainability. And the extreme end is ignore the environmental sustainability and give the okay or the fine command to the DDMA and continue with the hotel's developmental project. And the third option comes in somewhere in between, that how as a civil servant you will balance it out, both the prospects, because without economic development the region cannot be developed, regional prosperity or the welfare cannot happen, but it shouldn't come at the cost of too much of the environmental degradation or the environmental hazards. So we need to find out some middle way approach or the balanced approach in this particular question. So the first is this extreme statement that I'll halt the project and will fully go to the environmental sustainability. So what are the merits and the demerits in that particular approach or the option? The very first thing is the professional integrity. I'll uphold the professional integrity. Whatever the right thing is, I am going by that direction, because DDMA said that this should not be given the direction to continue the developmental project. So professional integrity will be sustained. Then comes the environmental protection. Then next is the public interest, because as the NDMA suggested or DDMA suggested, this region is prone to the seismic zone 5 or the seismic activities. So even if any developmental project will install there, it will do the haphazard or it will convert into the hazard or the disaster in the later times. So considering the larger public interest, stalling or halting this project is promoting the larger public interest. Then comes the demerit. Demerit in this particular case scenario is halting the project against going by the CM's direction and against going to the developmental prospects of the people. So it is against the organizational hierarchy, against the economic development. It is also results into the personal and the professional repercussions. How? Because I'll be on the bad lights in the CM's eye, so I may face the personal and the professional repercussions for this, for not passing the final directions given by the DDMA. Then next comes is the second options available to me, acting on the CMO advice. Whatever the CMO is saying, I'll obey that particular direction. What is the merit? Organizational hierarchy, I am abiding whatever the CM is saying. Personal reward may come because I'll be on the good eyes of CM. Then employment and the economic boost by development of the hotels project and boosting the religious tourism over there. So it empowers the citizens over there and empowers overall region. Then comes the demerit. It is against the professional integrity because I know that it is the in the seismic zone 5. So I shouldn't pass it, but although I am passing it on the advice of the CM, so it is against the professional integrity. Then unsustainable development, because it's in the zone 5, it's against the environmental sustainability. Then against the public interest, because the larger public interest is the sustainable development or the holistic development of that particular region, not only the short term gains under some pressure. Next comes the third option, some middle path. And what can be that middle path? The balancing between the economic development and the environmental sustainability. I can come up with the idea that we cannot do the economic development at a very large scale of this hotel development. We can reduce it to some amount, and even if we are doing it, we do it with the advanced technology like the disaster resilient building infrastructure. We can take the best practices from the Japan like shock absorbers, etc. Or we can come up with the other activities for the employment generation like the skill development of the youth over there in some emerging technologies. So what are the advantages, merits and the demerits of this particular option? First thing is professional integrity would be maintained. Middle path so as to not exploiting both the extreme ends. Sustainable economic development would happen. Then comes the demerit. It is against the organizational hierarchy. Personal and the professional repercussions can take place. And the economic hit. Because the development or the economic development is not suddenly happening. It will take some time with the new technological advancements, and that new technologies will also be expensive technologies. So the economic hit in two things, like first, sudden halt of the project, not the sudden economic development. Later stage with the advanced technologies, when the economic development will take place, it will be expensive. Now comes that what I'll take that action from all these 3 points. What would be my course of action? I'll choose the third option, the balanced one. First thing, and how I will take that middle path. First, I'll communicate the DD advice to the CMO and would request that we should take some alternate path or some middle path, not the extreme ends, or not to directly go by the hotel projects. So, I'll suggest that alternate sources of employment for the youth would be to the skill development in the emerging technologies like social media, content creation, data analytics, which does not require the physical infrastructure development. Although this will require some financial and the resources mobilization from the government side, and that we will do that. Next is the service industry approach to promote the local culture like homestays, co-share habitations, as we have seen in Uttarakhand. Whenever we go for tourism activities, there are many homestays. So we should promote, we should put some extra budgetary resources for promotion of that particular activities or the things. Next is, instead of economic activities or the economic development into the infrastructural development like the hotels project, we should also invest, or we should also go for the agroforestry, animal husbandry and the cottage industry. So the development prospects should be tailor-made according to the particular region, the topography, the risk analysis and the risk mitigation method should also take place. Then if the CMO will not agree on all these alternative prospects of the economic development, then I'll also say that we can use the earthquake resilient building technology for the construction of the hotel project. Lastly, I'll also create awareness amongst the public, because for the good governance of that particular region or from the government side, there should be public trust. public trust should not hamper when we'll say that economic development in the recent time is not going to take place, and they are forcing or the pressurizing government to build, allow them to build the hotels and generate some prospects of economic activities. So we need to create the awareness amongst the public and tell them about the suitability, about the sustainability of that particular region, and also convey all these things to the community people over the civil society organizations of over there, so as to maintain the trust of the people in the government. Next is finally conclusion summary. You can write that the sustainable development is the only pathway to the future we want for all. It offers a framework to generate the economic growth, social justice, and exercises the environmental stewardship and strengthen the governance. So you write the major gist, that what the fundamental theme was and what is necessary so as to do the good governance, so as to strengthen the governance, so as to include the participation from the community, and to exercise the environmental sustainability as well as the infrastructural development or the economic development. So this was the first case study. We have provided you the model answer. Just go through it, that how we can write the multiple dimensions of the case study. Some people also write, like in the case study, stakeholders involved, facts of the case, and the aims on the objectives. But again, I said that 250 words and 20 marks, and again we have to see the time limit. So these ways you can write the case study. Now next comes to the second question. There has been ongoing debate about the ills of the VIP culture in India. So the question is about the VIP culture. The VIP culture has seeped into the Indian administration mostly due to the Mai Baap culture of the British era administration. So it is also saying that it is the colonial legacy. You have been recently appointed as the DSP of the subdivision in the state capital district. The Chief Minister of the state has famously urged his cabinet and administration. DSP CM has said to its cabinet and administrators to shed off this British legacy or the VIP culture. Despite such push from the CM against VIP culture, you see a gross violation of this plea, as most sitting MLAs and the bureaucratic officials continue to carry out this VIP culture in the form of halting traffic, expecting special treatments, garlands, decorations on arrival at the state functions, prioritized darshan at the religious places, etc. So they have given some examples also. You can use in the case study or the answer. The advent of the social media seems to have accentuated the practices, as most people, in lieu of likes, tend to create this godlike image or the persona. Means they are flaunting their privileges. You need to use the examples also from the question itself in your answer. This further discourages the hard-working bureaucrats and the politicians who oppose such practices. You are comfortable with these violations. You are uncomfortable with these violations, as you strongly believe that the VIP culture distances the general public from its service provider. It means it creates some wall between citizen and the governmental agents. On discussing with your colleagues and superiors on the Chief Minister's plea, you have observed that most of the officials don't care about it. They are also unsympathetic about the problems general people face. They somehow believe that this is their reward for acquiring prestigious positions in the administration. So this is the major issue. Now the question is to identify the ethical issues, options, examine the options, what course of action I would take, and enlist the measures to eradicate the VIP culture. So the very first introduction, what you can write? You can write about the basic scenario or the fundamental theme, which is the VIP culture. So you can write in introduction that VIP culture and the bureaucratic privileges do not go hand in hand with the larger public interest and the code of ethics of the civil services. This is also the cutting from the newspaper about the recent happening of Delhi's Thyagaraja Stadium, where the IAS couple has asked along with their dog, has asked the athletes to move out of that particular court so that they can walk over there. So this is also again the very apt example of the VIP culture. So you can use these examples from the newspaper, etc. in your case studies. Next comes the stakeholder. I, as the DSP of the state capital or the district in the state capital. Then state and the district administration, including the MLAs who are the part of that VIP culture, CM who has asked me to take care of it, to shed off or to shun this VIP culture, and the citizens who are major the sufferers, and the society at large. Then comes the ethical issues involved. Ethical issues. The first thing is professional dishonesty. Professional dishonesty means what is the honesty for my profession, because as a DSP I have to obey with my duties. And what is my duty? To serve the people, to serve the public interest, not to do something which is in my interest, like asking for the VIP culture. So it is against the professional honesty. Then next is the poor work culture. Asking for or demanding or accepting the VIP culture results into the poor work culture. Lack of fairness. Fairness is a very essential component of equality. And when people are treated unequal, like some people are treating as a VIP and other as a normal, it creates the inequality. So fairness is lost in that. Against good governance. Good governance is when the people trusts in the public, when the governance is efficient, but this asking or demanding for the certain privileges from the people or doing all this VIP culture in the public, it hampers the good governance. Then public harassment. When any public officials or the administrator asks something from the public or demanding this VIP culture, always the public is the one who is a sufferer. Like if the VIP culture, like in this case we have seen the athletes were the sufferers because they have to leave the court before time and they cannot do practice over there just for the walk of that IAS officers couple. Again, the temple entry, they need the prioritized temple entry. Others have to wait for the long time because when they will be finished with the darshans, then they'll step into the temples. So this is the public harassment also. Then false pride. As this is a proper scenario given in the question that with the emerging or the advent of the social media, these IAS officers or these bureaucrats flaunt their privileges, which is against their conduct. Their duty is to serve the people, not to flaunt their privileges. Then professional integrity. Again, with the right course of action, right is to shun off or to shed off this VIP culture. But again, many people are continuing with it. So the ethical issue is the professional integrity. Next is the options. Again, options, you have to take two extremes and then the mid path. Extreme is here is totally force or ban this VIP culture and to strictly say to the public officials that you should not do this, or continue with it. So this is in going with the CM's plea and this is it against the PM and also but in the accordance with the public officials or the cabinet or the MLAs and the different bureaucrats. We'll see some middle path in the later stage here. First option is report this matter to the CMO and will say that people are not abiding by this and will come up with some strict action. The merit is this, I'll go by the merit is I'll do whatever is the best. So I'll be going personal conscience that VIP culture should be shed off. So not going into this with the VIP culture will sustain my personal conscience. Then it is also the morally right thing not to harass the people, and it is also the right thing for the job or for the service for which the civil servant is doing its service. Next is the larger public interest. Public interest is when there is no glass ceiling or the glass wall between the citizen and the government agents. So now the larger public interest is when the citizen can give and take the feedback for the government and to directly communicate with the public officials. So when the VIP culture would not be there, they can directly communicate, and these government agents would be easily accessible to the people. Then demerits are the personal and the professional repercussions, because of the other public officials and the other ministers, they are not into this favor. So maybe this person will face the personal and the professional repercussions. Then lack of the public opposition. Also the people are part of this VIP culture. People will also obey this VIP culture, and also the officials, they think that this is not against some norm or the conduct of the civil servants, or they are into according of their conduct, like they have read so much, they are in the great position, so this is a privilege they should show. So this is the lack of public opposition. Next is avoiding the matter and continuing the practice, means not going against the public officials and continue with whatever is going on and promoting the VIP culture. So the merit is organizational norms, whatever is happening, let it be, and importance of the VIP culture. No professional and the personal repercussions from other public officials, because this is just a plea, not a mandate that you have to stop it. This is just a plea from the CM. Then demerit is against the personal conscience. It is against the modern value system. Modern value system is when the citizen is very close to the governance or the government. There should not be any wall between them, so that the public trust would be generated, so that the government will also be transparent and accountable. Next is the larger public interest. Again, this is the major public interest. Then last is the option, some middle way. I lead by example. Lead by example means I can shun off or I can shed off my VIP culture, because this is just a plea, not a mandate. So I cannot force other public officials to leave all this VIP culture. Neither I'll doing be some against of both the things. Not I'll be promoting, not I'm asking them to stop. So is the merits is it will serve the public interest, because I'll be more accessible to the public. I can take care of this. This is just a middle path. Then personal conscience. So whatever I have decided, it's my under my conscience. Then personal liberty of the others. I am also professing the personal liberty of the others by not forcing them, because this is not a mandate. Then modern value system. Then I'll be more accessible by the public. Then demerits is limited career advancements, because now I have shun off my VIP culture. Maybe I'll not be seek out or the sought after personality from the very great personalities, like from the rich individuals, so as to advance my career prospects. So this will limit the career prospect. Second is resistance and opposition. So I'll be more forced via my public officials, other public officials or the colleagues. Then is unrealistic expectation. Now because I am doing this good practices, now I'll be more expect to do, I'll be forced to do other things which maybe I'm not capable of. Then comes the options I will choose. First I'll choose lead by example option. The third one, I'll write to the CMO requesting to pass some legislation or the rules prohibiting the VIP cultural practices. And to create a favorable atmosphere, I would also be cooperating with the civil society organizations to create awareness amongst the public also, so that they will not also give a push and they can also averse this VIP culture. Then next is a public debate on the matter would create pressure on the administration or the administrator to shed off this VIP culture. Then the last question is, what are the measures to eradicate the VIP culture in India? First is by framing guidelines or the law to shun off this VIP culture or to prohibit the VIP culture. Next is creating awareness amongst the public, amongst the other public officials. Taking inspirations from the countries like Norway and the Finland, where PM himself walks through the metro for their work. Proper security threats should be analysis for those who are under some threat, and the VIP protection should be given to those who are in need, and the cost should be bared by those particular individuals only. Then inculcate the value education. Inculcate these factors, these values in the school education itself, so as to maintain the equality and so as to ensure the simple living. Then finally comes the conclusion. You can write in conclusion about the gist of this whole case study, that how this shun, how to shed off this VIP culture will enhance the democratic principles. Like, there should be the complete rejection of the VIP culture, and when the ruling class refuses to imbibe and embody the concept of political equality as a way of life, there seems to be no alternative other than forcing them to be humble, to be more accessible for the public. So all the leaders and the administration should imbibe such democratic values which are founding stone of the largest democracy like India. So this way you can conclude your answer. Finally, let's see the model answer. Again, the different approaches you can take, like you can write in a table format about the stakeholder, facts of the case, aims, ethical issues, then options available to me, and what option I'll take, and what are the measures to eradicate the VIP culture. Finally, one line for the conclusion. That's it from my side. Thank you and have a nice day.